Hello everyone. In this session, we want to take a look at group policy objects. There are three types of group policy objects. You have local GPOs, non-local GPOs, which would be domain GPOs, and then we have starter GPOs. Let's start by looking at the local GPOs. When we say local GPOs, we're actually referring to the group policy objects on a workstation computer, a computer that's not joined to the domain. On a workstation computer, you can have multiple group policy objects. For example, on a local machine, you can have more than one user. As a matter of fact, you could have 2 or 3 or how many ever users you want on that local machine. For each of those users, you might want to have a different group policy object. You might want to have a different group policy object for the administrator, and you might want to have a different group policy object for individual users. Windows versions earlier than Vista or Server 2008 had only one local policy for everyone who used that computer. So if you created a user called John and another user called Pat, all of them had to have the same local policy. Since Server 2008 and Vista, the newer versions that we have support more than one local policy. The local GPO does not contain as many options as the domain GPO. Another thing about the GPOs, if you have a local GPO set, for example, let's say that we have the wallpaper set on a local group policy object. And we also have a wallpaper set on a domain group policy object. The domain GPO group policy object is going to override the local group policy object. How do we access the local group policy? Well, there are different ways that we can access the local group policy. One of the ways is by typing gpedit.msc in your run box and then clicking on OK. Once you do that, the local group policy editor will open up. As you can see here, you have computer configuration and user configuration. It looks a lot like the domain group policy, but it is a local group policy. And what you're going to get are your administrative templates. Here on the computer configuration, you have software settings, Windows settings, administrative templates, user configuration, software settings, Windows settings, administrative templates. So this is the local group policy editor. Again, it looks a lot like the domain group policy editor. This is the group policy management console for the domain group policy. You can see here forest domains, and there's one thing that we want to talk about here. It is called the Starter GPO. If you open group policy management and you expand your domain, you will see Starter GPO. What is a Starter GPO? Well, a starter GPO can be thought of as a group policy object template that you as an administrator might want to use as the basis for any new GPO that you're creating within the domain. For example, if I wanted to create a company-wide policy saying that the password length for my password policy has to be more than 8 characters, and I want that to be for everyone within the company, then one thing that I could do is to create a starter GPO. What the starter GPO does is allow you to build based on the starter GPO. So if you build a new GPO, you can use your starter GPO as a baseline. And it helps save you a lot of time, because if you had 5 departments, and those 5 departments, you have named them as 5 OUs within your Active Directory, and you want to place policies on each of those. For the 5 OUs, you want to have some basic policies that will be placed on all of the OUs. All of the basic policies will be the same. You might have the same password policy. You might have a desktop policy where you have the same wallpaper. Now, if you are building a new GPO and you are placing this GPO, you're pointing it to another OU, you still want to have these basic settings. Instead of creating the basic settings all over again, what you do is you put them into a starter GPO. And then when you're building your new GPO, you base it on that starter GPO, meaning that you're going to start with the policies in the starter GPO, and then you will customize from that starter GPO. You can right click on the starter GPO and you can say new GPO, and you see here we have the starter GPO in the left pane, and we say new, and you just type the name. If you wanted to say company starter GPO or company wide starter GPO, you'll type the name, and then you will type a comment so that you remember what the GPO is all about. And here we have basic policy settings for all departments. You can go ahead there and click on OK. And once you have done that, you will see your new GPO in the list of starter GPOs. What you can do now is edit it. So when you click on edit, you will then customize it. So besides the basic policies, you can then go and add additional policies. We have a policy called prevent adding, dragging, dropping, and closing the taskbar. So we might want to use this in our starter GPO. So we went to administrative templates and we clicked on desktop, and this is the GPO that we picked up. So we chose that for the starter GPO. We enable the policy by clicking on enable, and you can see here on the right hand side the explanation for the GPO. Now, once you have that starter GPO, you now would want to create a new GPO, maybe for the finance OU. So let's say we are going to create a GPO for the finance OU. So we right click on finance and we say create a GPO in this domain and link it here, which means that we are creating a new group policy object, and this group policy object is going to be linked to the finance OU. When you do that, you're going to be asked for the name of the group policy object. So where does the starter GPO come in? Right here. Instead of saying OK, we click the down arrow, and then you click on the starter GPO that you had created, which was company starter GPO, which means that your GPO is going to start with the policy settings that were in the company starter GPO. And then you can go and add or customize the GPO to add additional settings. So you will have the name finance GPO, and it will be based on what? The company starter GPO. So that is the purpose of the Starter GPO within group policy management. It is a baseline on which you can base new GPOs. It's a very effective tool for administrators because it helps you save time and energy. That is the end of this session on Starter GPOs. I want to thank you again for listening.